The sky above Thrysia Prime burned red. Not from a sunset, but from the ships that fell from orbit. Ambassador Kelris watched from the command tower as another coalition cruiser exploded, scattering metal and fire across the atmosphere. His long fingers gripped the railing. His species, the Valorans, were peaceful traders. They built things. They made art. They did not know how to fight wars like this. Ambassador, we must evacuate now, his aide said. Her voice shook with fear. Kelris looked at the city below. Millions of his people filled the streets, running, crying, holding their children. The Devourers were coming. Everyone knew what that meant. The Devourers did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They consumed everything. Planets, cities, people. They turned living worlds into dead rocks. Where will we go? Kelris asked quietly. Every colony is under attack. Every safe world is already full. The aide had no answer. The coalition forces had fought for 3 months. They lost every battle. The Devourers were too many, too strong, too hungry. Fleet Admiral Toros gave the order 2 hours ago. Full retreat. Save who you can. Abandon the rest. Kelris walked to the communications console. His hands moved across the controls. He entered a code that he was not supposed to know. A code that was forbidden by the Coalition Charter. Sir, what are you doing? The aide asked. Something that might save us, Kelris said. Or something that might doom us all. The signal went out. It traveled faster than light, jumping through relay stations, crossing empty space, reaching toward a small yellow star on the edge of known space, a star that the Coalition had marked, with red warnings, a quarantine zone, the home of a species that was too dangerous to join civilized worlds, Earth. Captain Jinho Park stood in the briefing room of Defense Station Gohung, orbiting Earth. He was 34 years old, tall and lean, with scars on his hands from a dozen combat missions. He commanded the 7th Expeditionary Battalion, one of Earth's elite military units. But for the last 10 years, he had never left the solar system. None of them had. Another drill? Lieutenant Hyun Lee asked, sitting down with a cup of coffee. Probably, Jinho said. They always schedule these at stupid hours. But when Commander Hana Choi walked into the room, Jinho knew this was not a drill. Hana's face was serious. She carried a data pad, and her movements were quick and precise. She was the station's strategic operations officer, one of the smartest people Jinho had ever met. Seal the room, Hana said. Jinho pressed a button. The doors locked. The windows darkened. The room was now secure. Hana put the data pad on the table. A hologram appeared, showing a sector of space far from Earth. 2 hours ago, we received a transmission. It came through the old first contact channels, the ones we were told to forget about. Jinho leaned forward. From who? The Valoran Confederation. They're part of something called the Galactic Coalition. Hana touched the hologram. An alien face appeared. Long features, large eyes, skin like blue silk. This is Ambassador Kelris. He sent a distress call. His people are being exterminated. The room was silent. Everyone remembered the stories. 200 years ago, Earth made first contact with an alien species. It went badly. There was violence, misunderstanding, death on both sides. The aliens left. They put Earth under quarantine. Humanity was banned from the stars. Too violent, they said. Too dangerous. Too broken. What does he want? Jinho asked. Military assistance, Hana said. The coalition is losing a war against something called the Devourers. They've tried everything. Nothing works. They're desperate enough to call us. Us, Sergeant Minho Kang repeated. Minho was a big man, with a heavy weapons certification and a dark sense of humor. The species they called monsters. Yes, Hana said simply. Jinho looked at the alien's face in the hologram. He saw fear there. Real fear. The kind of fear that made people do desperate things. What does command say? 8. The Defense Council is meeting now. But you know how they think. Earth first policy. Stay isolated. Stay safe. Don't get involved in alien wars. How many? Jinho asked. How many what? How many people are dying while the council meets? Hana looked at her datapad. The transmission said billions. Multiple colony worlds already consumed. Thrysia Prime has 2 days. Maybe less. Jinho stood up. He walked to the window. Outside, he could see Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Humanity had almost destroyed it once. World wars. Nuclear weapons. Climate collapse. They came so close to extinction that the scars still showed. But they survived. They learned. They became stronger. I think we should go, Jinho said. The council won't approve it, Hana replied. Then we convince them. The Defense Council met in Geneva. 12 members, representing Earth's unified military command. Hana presented the situation. She showed them the data, the alien transmission, the maps of a war that humanity had never seen. We have no obligation to these aliens, Counselor Park said. No relation to Jinho. Just a common name. They quarantined us. They called us dangerous. Now they want our help? Yes, Hana said. Because we are dangerous. That's exactly why they need us. We don't even know if we can fight these devourers, another counselor argued. Our weapons are designed for human conflicts. Our weapons are designed to kill, Jinho said. He was not supposed to speak at council meetings, but Hana had brought him anyway. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. We're very good at it. The room was uncomfortable. No one liked to talk about humanity's violent history. If we break quarantine, the coalition might see it as an invasion, Counselor Park said. They asked for help, Hana replied. We have the transmission. It's a formal request. From one ambassador, Park countered. Not from their government. Jinho stepped forward. 200 years ago. They left us alone because they were afraid. They were right to be afraid. We were violent and broken and dangerous, but we're not the same species anymore. We've had 2 centuries of peace. We've rebuilt everything. And now, someone is crying for help, and we're sitting here arguing about politics while billions die. We have a responsibility to protect Earth first, Park said. We have a responsibility to be better than we were, Jinho said. That's the whole point of everything we've built. The council argued for 6 hours. Finally, they voted. 7-5. Humanity would break quarantine. The 7th Expeditionary Battalion prepared for deployment. 500 soldiers, the best Earth had. Jinho walked through the staging area, watching his people check weapons, load equipment, say goodbye to families. Some of them looked excited. Some looked scared. All of them looked ready. Corporal Nari Song was checking medical supplies. She was small and quick, with steady hands and a reputation for saving lives in impossible situations. Captain, she said, saluting. Ready, Corporal? Yes, sir, although I've never treated an alien before. Just keep them alive, same as any human. Yes, sir. Sergeant Minho Kang walked over, carrying a massive plasma cannon. Think these bugs will be tough? We'll find out, Jinho said. The transport ships were ready, sleek vessels designed for speed and stealth. Earth's best technology, developed in isolation, untested against alien weapons. The battalion loaded up, engines powered on. Launch sequences began. Jinho stood in the command center with Hana. Think we're doing the right thing? He asked. I think someone asked for help, and we're answering, Hana said. That's enough. The ships lifted off. They climbed through the atmosphere, past the defense stations, toward the jump point that would take them to Thrysia Prime. Earth fell away behind them. For the first time in 200 years, humans were leaving their home system to meet the galaxy. They were going to war, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The jump through hyperspace took 3 days. Jinho spent most of that time studying everything Earth's intelligence had on the Devourers. It was not much. Old reports from coalition refugees, scattered transmissions, blurry images. The Devourers were a hive mind. Millions of creatures acting as one. They bred fast, adapted faster, and never stopped until a world was empty. They sound like locusts, Minho said, looking at the reports over Jinho's shoulder. Locusts with teeth and starships, Jinho replied. On the third day, alarms sounded. They were approaching Thrysia Prime. The ships dropped out of hyperspace. Every screen in the command center immediately filled with targets. Mother of God, Hana whispered. The space around Thrysia Prime was filled with devourer bioships, living vessels that looked like massive insects crossed with deep-sea creatures. They pulsed with red bioluminescence. Hundreds of them orbited the planet, launching smaller attack craft toward the surface. Coalition forces? Jinho asked. Gone, sir, the tactical officer reported. I'm reading debris fields. Lots of them. Below, on the planet's surface, Jinho could see cities burning. The capital was surrounded by devourer landing forces. Ambassador Kelris had sent their landing coordinates, right in the middle of the fighting. Sir, we can't land in that, the pilot said. The anti-air fire is too heavy. Then we don't land, Jinho said. We drop. Hana looked at him. Combat drop? From this altitude? Unless you have a better idea. She did not. Hana activated the battalion-wide channel. All units, prepare for high-altitude combat insertion. Check your gear. Check your jumpsuit. Check the person next to you. We're going in hot. The transport ships moved into position above the capital city. Below, the devourers were pushing into the last defensive lines. Valoran soldiers were dying. Jinho could see it on the tactical displays. They were brave, but they were not warriors. They fought like civilians with guns. 30 seconds, the pilot announced. Jinho sealed his helmet. Around him, the 7th Battalion did the same. 500 soldiers in black armor, carrying weapons designed to kill humans. They had no idea if those weapons would work on aliens. They were about to find out. Doors opening, the pilot said. The transport bay doors slid open. Wind roared into the ship. Below, the city was a maze of smoke and fire and chaos. Jinho could see devourer creatures swarming through the streets like ants. Jump! Jinho shouted. He stepped off the ramp and fell toward the planet. The battalion followed him. 500 black shapes, dropping through the sky, falling through enemy fire, through smoke, through hell itself. Jumpsuit thrusters fired, slowing their descent. Bullets and plasma bolts streaked past them. 3 soldiers were hit before they reached the ground. Their suits went dark. They fell faster. Jinho hit the ground in the middle of a plaza. His knees absorbed the impact. He brought his rifle up immediately, scanning for targets. He found plenty. Devourer soldiers were everywhere. They looked like walking nightmares. 6-legged, armored, with mandibles that could tear through metal. They moved fast. One charged at him. Jinho fired. The rifle's plasma rounds hit the creature in the center mass. It screamed and collapsed. Black blood pooled on the ground. They bleed, Jinho shouted into the comm. They die. Keep firing. The battalion landed around him. Immediately, they formed defensive positions. Sergeant Minho dropped next to a fountain, setting up his heavy plasma cannon. He opened fire, cutting down devourers in groups. Corporal Nari hit the ground near a group of wounded Valoran civilians. She immediately started dragging them to cover. The devourers realized something new had arrived. They turned toward the humans. Dozens of them charged across the plaza. They moved like animals, fast and savage. Hold the line, Jinho ordered. The 7th Battalion opened fire. Plasma bolts and explosive rounds filled the air. Devourers fell by the dozen. But more kept coming. They did not care about losses. They did not retreat, they just attacked. A Valoran officer stumbled toward Jinho's position. His armor was damaged, his weapon empty. He stared at the humans with wide eyes. "What are you?" he asked in broken standard. "Terran Defense Force," Jinho said, shooting another devourer. "We got your message. Terrans?" The officer looked confused. "The quarantine species? That's us. You came? Someone asked for help. The officer watched as Minho's cannon tore through a cluster of devourers. "You fight like demons. We fight like humans," Jinho said. "Now get your people to safety. We'll hold here." The officer nodded and ran. Jinho watched him go, then turned back to the battle. The devourers were regrouping. A larger creature emerged from a side street. It stood 3 meters tall, armored like a tank, with claws that looked like blades. "Minho, big one. You're 3 o'clock, Jinho called. "I see it," Minho replied. He swung the cannon around and fired. The heavy plasma bolts hit the creature's armor. It stumbled, but did not fall. "It's got thick skin." "Then use more bullets," Lieutenant Hyun Lee shouted. He activated a shoulder-mounted launcher and fired an explosive round. It hit the large devourer in the leg joint. The explosion took the leg off. The creature collapsed, screaming. "That works," Hyun said. The battle raged for 2 hours. The 7th Battalion held the plaza. They did not retreat. They did not break. When devourers came from the north, they shot them. When they came from the south, they shot them. When they tried to flank, humans were already there, waiting. Valoran soldiers watched from their positions. They had never seen anything like this. The Terrans fought with a cold efficiency that seemed impossible. No panic. No fear. Just constant, deadly violence. "Why don't they retreat?" a Valoran soldier asked his commander. "I don't think they know how," the commander replied. By the 4th hour, the devourers changed tactics. They pulled back from the plaza and started bombing it from the air. Bioships flew low, dropping explosive spores that burst on impact. The ground shook. Buildings collapsed. Fire was everywhere. "We need to move," Hana shouted over the comm. "Where?" Jinho asked. "We're surrounded. The bridge," Valoran Commander Tellis called on the open channel. "The main bridge across the Kython River. If they take it, they can bring heavy forces into the city center. We must hold it." Jinho looked at his tactical display. The bridge was 6 blocks away. Between them and the bridge were approximately 300 devourer soldiers, and more coming. "Minho, Nari, Hyun, with me. Everyone else, provide covering fire. We're taking that bridge." "Sir, that's suicide," Hana said. "Then I'll see you in hell," Jinho replied. "Move out." Jinho ran. His team followed. They moved through the burning streets, shooting everything that moved. Devourers came from alleys, from buildings, from underneath destroyed vehicles. The humans shot them all. Nari carried her medical bag and her rifle, using both with equal skill. She shot a devourer, then stopped to bandage a wounded Valoran civilian, then shot another devourer. They reached the bridge. It was a massive structure, built to carry heavy traffic across a wide river. Now it was covered with devourers. Hundreds of them, trying to cross. On the far side, human soldiers were already fighting. It was 2nd Squad, led by Sergeant Take Seo. "Take, status," Jinho shouted. "Holding the east side, Captain." "But barely." "Keep holding. We're coming." Jinho's team charged onto the bridge. Minho set up his cannon and fired down the length of the structure. The heavy plasma bolts cut through devourers like a scythe through grass. Hyun threw grenades into the clusters of enemies. Nari shot with deadly accuracy, each bullet finding a target. Jinho ran forward, his rifle on full auto. A devourer leaped at him from the side. He dropped his rifle, drew his combat knife, and slammed it into the creature's throat. Black blood sprayed across his armor. The creature fell. Jinho picked up his rifle and kept moving. They fought for 6 hours straight. 6 hours without rest, without relief, without retreat. Devourers threw wave after wave at the bridge. The humans shot every single one. When ammunition ran low, they used knives. When the knives broke, they used their fists. When soldiers fell wounded, Nari dragged them to cover and kept them alive. By nightfall, the bridge was secure. Bodies covered the structure. Most of them were devourers. Some were human. Jinho counted 12 dead from the 7th Battalion. 40 wounded, but the bridge held. Valoran forces moved across, reinforcing the position. Commander Tellus himself came to see the humans. He stared at the carnage, at the mountains of dead devourers, at the humans who stood among them, bloody and tired but unbroken. 6 hours, Tellus said quietly. You held for 6 hours against impossible odds. It wasn't impossible, Minho said, reloading his cannon. They died. That made it possible. The Terrans don't run, a Valoran soldier said. Others repeated it. The Terrans don't run. Jinho looked at his battalion. They were exhausted. They were hurt. But they were ready to keep fighting. That was what humans did. They survived. They endured. They fought. Get some rest, Jinho ordered. We go again at dawn. Across the city, the devourers regrouped. They had never encountered resistance like this. They had never seen soldiers who refused to break. The hive mind pulsed with something new. Not fear, exactly, but uncertainty. The humans had arrived. And the galaxy would never be the same. The morning came with smoke and fire still burning across the city. Jinho stood on the bridge, watching the sun rise over Thrysia Prime. It was a different color than Earth's sun, more orange than yellow. He wondered if he would ever see Earth's sun again. Captain, Ambassador Kelris approached slowly. He moved carefully around the bodies that still covered the ground. Cleanup crews worked to clear them, but there were so many. May I speak with you? May I speak with you? Of course, Ambassador. Kelris looked at the bridge, at the walls marked with bullet holes and burn marks, at the blood that stained the metal. My people have been part of the coalition for 400 years. We have seen many species fight, but never like this. Never with such intensity. We held the bridge, Jinho said simply. That's what you needed. You did more than hold it. You made the devourers afraid. I can see it in their patterns. They are avoiding this sector now. Kelris turned to face Jinho. Why were your people quarantined? The records are sealed. The coalition will not speak of it. Jinho was quiet for a moment. That's a long story. We have time, Kelris said. And I think I deserve to know who I invited to my world. Jinho nodded slowly. He activated his comm. Hana, can you join us on the bridge? Bring the historical files. Commander Hana Choi arrived 20 minutes later. She carried a datapad with Earth's history. Kelris called for other Valoran officers to join them. They gathered on the bridge, humans and aliens, surrounded by the evidence of yesterday's violence. You want to know why we were quarantined? Jinho said. The simple answer is that we scared the other species. The real answer is more complicated. Jinhos. When opposite a problem skid pentading this. We now said. Jinho said. Hana activated the datapad. Holographic images appeared, showing Earth's history. Cities. Wars. Destruction on a massive scale. 200 years ago, we made first contact with the Valoran scout ship Harmony, Jinho continued. It was supposed to be peaceful. But we were different then. We were still fighting ourselves. Still divided. Some humans saw the aliens as a threat. Others saw them as an opportunity. Violence broke out. People died on both sides. The hologram showed images of the first contact war. Brief, but brutal. The Valorans left, Jinho said. They told the coalition about us. A violent species. Dangerous. Primitive. The coalition put Earth under quarantine. They said we could not join the galactic community until we learned to be peaceful. Kelris nodded slowly. I remember learning about this in school. They called your species the War Makers. They were right, Hana said. She changed the hologram, showing older images. Tanks rolling across fields. Cities reduced to rubble. Mushroom clouds rising into the sky. Before we met the Valorans, we had already almost destroyed ourselves. Multiple times, the Valoran officers stared at the images. One of them made a sound of distress. Your own kind did this? Yes, Hana said. We fought 2 world wars. The second one killed over 70 million people. We developed nuclear weapons and used them. We poisoned our own planet. With pollution and greed, we came very close to extinction. But you survived, Kelris said quietly. We survived, Jinho agreed. But the cost was terrible. My grandfather fought in the last war, the one we fought just before first contact. He told me stories, cities burning, children starving, soldiers killing each other over scraps of food. We learned what war really meant. We learned it in the worst way possible. The hologram changed again, showing images of Earth's recovery, people rebuilding, working together, creating something new from the ashes. After the quarantine, we had a choice, Hana said. We could stay divided and angry, or we could become something better. It took time, decades, but we unified. We cleaned our planet. We ended war among ourselves. We built a peaceful civilization. Then why do you still know how to fight? A Valoran officer asked. If you have peace, why maintain such military forces? Sergeant Minho walked over, his armor still covered in dried blood from yesterday's battle. Because we remember. We remember what we lost. What we did to each other. We remember that peace is fragile. And we remember that sometimes, the only way to protect peace is to be ready for war. We train, Jinho added. We prepare. We study military history. Not because we want to fight, but because we know what happens when you're not ready. We learned that lesson in Blood and Fire. Corporal Nari Song joined the group. She had been treating wounded all night and looked exhausted. Ambassador Kelris, can I ask you something? Of course. Have the Valorans ever fought a war? I mean, among yourselves? Kelris thought about this. We had conflicts. Many centuries ago. Small disputes over resources. But we solved them through negotiation and trade. We have not had war in over 600 years. You're lucky, Nari said softly. War is terrible. It breaks people. It breaks worlds. You were smart enough to avoid it. But now you need people who understand it, Minho said. Because the Devourers don't negotiate. They don't trade. They just destroy. And to fight them, you need soldiers who know how to fight. You need people like us, Jinho said. People who learned warfare the hard way. Who survived the worst humanity could do to itself. The hologram changed one more time, showing images of Jinho's battalion. Fighting on the bridge, holding positions, never retreating. We fight the way we do because death is familiar to us, Jinho said. We've seen our cities burn. We've buried our families. We've walked through ruins and survived. Every human soldier knows that war is hell, but we also know how to win in hell. A young Valoran officer spoke up, his voice uncertain. You sound like you're proud of your violent history. No, Hana said firmly. We're not proud. We're ashamed. Every human carries that shame. We nearly destroyed the most beautiful planet in the galaxy because we couldn't stop fighting. But shame can teach you. Pain can make you stronger. We took our worst qualities and turned them into something useful. Your violence became your weapon, Kelris said slowly, understanding. Our experience became our weapon, Jinho corrected. Violence is just a tool. What matters is why you use it and how you control it. We use it to protect, to save, to give other species the peace we nearly lost. Sorabe, one of the battalion's snipers, had been listening quietly. Now she spoke, her voice calm and measured. Ambassador, you asked why we fight like this. I'll tell you something my grandmother told me. She lived through the Seoul bombardment, 20 years before I was born. She saw the city burn. She saw people die in the streets, and when I asked her how she survived, she said something I never forgot. What did she say? Kelris asked. She said that when you've already seen the worst, nothing else can scare you. When you've lived through your own apocalypse, someone else's apocalypse is just familiar. Sora gestured at the destroyed city around them. This looks like home to us. This is what Earth looked like for 100 years. We know how to survive this. We know how to fight in this. Because we've been here before. The Valoran officers were silent. They looked at the humans with new understanding. These soldiers were not just warriors. They were survivors of something terrible. They carried scars that went deeper than skin. I think I understand now, Kelris said. The Coalition quarantined you because you were dangerous. But danger is exactly what we need. We prefer the term experienced, Minho said with a dark smile. There's something else you should know, Hana said. She looked at the Valoran officers seriously. We didn't come here as conquerors. We didn't come here to take over. We came because you asked for help. When this war is over, we'll go home. We don't want your planets or your resources. We just want to save lives. Why? Another Valoran officer asked. After we quarantined you? After we called you monsters? Because that's what being better means, Jinho said. We could have stayed home. We could have said they abandoned us. So we'll abandon them. But that would make us the monsters you thought we were. Instead, we chose to help. We chose to prove that humans can be more than our history. And because someone was crying for help, Nari added softly. And we couldn't ignore that. No matter what happened in the past, Kelris looked at each human face. He saw exhaustion, pain, determination, and something else. Something that looked like hope. The Coalition needs to hear this story, Kelris said. They need to know who you really are. They'll learn, Hana said. We'll show them on every battlefield. We'll show them that humans can fight and die for people we've never met. For causes that aren't ours. For peace we won't live to see. We're not the species we were 200 years ago, Jinho said. But we remember what that species could do. And now we use that knowledge to protect instead of destroy. The sun rose higher over the damaged city. In the distance, they could hear weapons fire. The war was not over. The Devourers were still out there. But on this bridge, humans and aliens stood together, understanding each other for the first time. Captain Jinho, Kelris said formally. On behalf of the Valoran Confederation and the Galactic Coalition, I officially request that Earth rejoin the galactic community. Not as a quarantined species, but as allies, as protectors, as friends. Jinho saluted. We'll have to ask our government. But speaking personally, Ambassador, we're already here. We're already fighting. That makes us allies already. Kelris returned the salute in the human way, something he had just learned. Then, let's finish this war together. The humans nodded. They turned back to their positions, ready for the next battle. The Valorans watched them go, no longer seeing monsters or warmakers. They saw warriors who had been forged in their own fire and came out stronger. They saw survivors who refused to let others suffer the way they had suffered. They saw humans. And that was more terrifying and more hopeful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The war had been raging for 12 days. The 7th Battalion held 7 critical positions across the city. They lost ground sometimes, then took it back. They lost soldiers every day, 53 dead now, 112 wounded, but they never broke. They never ran. Jinho stood in the command post, studying tactical displays. The Devourers were learning. They adapted quickly, changing tactics, finding new ways to attack. But humans adapted faster. That was the advantage of fighting as individuals, instead of a hive mind. Every soldier could think, adjust, survive. Captain, Lieutenant Hyun Lee burst into the room, his face pale. We have a problem. A big problem. Hana pulled up a new image on the main screen. Every person in the room went silent. What is that? Jinho asked quietly. The Devourers call it a Titan, a Valoran tactical officer explained. It's a bioconstruct, a living weapon. They've only deployed 3 in the entire war. Each time, they won the battle within hours. The image showed a creature the size of a building. 4 massive legs. Armor plating that looked thicker than tank hull. multiple weapon ports along its body, firing organic projectiles that exploded like artillery shells, and a screaming maw at the front that could swallow a vehicle whole. "How do you kill it?" Jinho asked. "You don't," the Valoran officer said. "Coalition forces tried everything. Heavy weapons, missiles, orbital bombardment. Nothing worked. The armor is too thick. It regenerates too fast. Every time a Titan appeared, we evacuated and abandoned the planet." "Well, we're not abandoning Thrysia Prime," Jinho said. "So we need a new plan." "What plan?" Minho asked. "We can't fight that thing." Jinho stared at the image. His mind raced through possibilities. Direct assault would fail. The armor was too strong. Long-range bombardment was impossible. Because their ships were outgunned, they needed to get inside the creature somehow. "How fast does it move?" Jinho asked. "Slow," the Valoran officer replied. "Maybe 10 kilometers per hour." "Where is it now?" "Approaching from the Western Industrial Zone. It will reach our defensive line in 6 hours." Jinho looked at Hana. She was already thinking the same thing he was. He could see it in her eyes. "We can't outgun it," Hana said slowly. "So we go inside." "That's insane," Hyun said. "Do you have a better idea?" Jinho asked. No one did. Jinho called for volunteers. He needed 2 people. Small, fast, crazy enough to try the impossible. 30 soldiers volunteered immediately. Jinho chose Sergeant Dawan Im and Private Eunji Han. Dawan was 31 years old. An explosives expert who could build a bomb from spare parts. Eunji was 23. The fastest runner in the battalion. With reflexes like a cat, together, they would attempt what no one had ever tried. They would go inside the Titan and destroy it from within. The plan was simple and suicidal. The Titan had intake vents for breathing and cooling. They were protected by organic filters, but not impossible to breach. Dawan and Eunji would wait until the creature passed their position, then use grappling lines to climb onto its back. They would find a vent, blow it open, and crawl inside with a reactor core from one of the damaged power stations. If they could reach the creature's central nervous system, the core's detonation would kill it. Probably. Maybe. No one really knew. "This is a one-way trip," Jinho told them. "You understand that?" "Yes, sir," Dawan said calmly. He had the expression of someone who had already accepted death. "I understand, sir," Eunji added. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice was steady. "If you want to back out, now is the time." Neither moved. "Then get ready. We move in 4 hours." The battalion spent those hours preparing. They set up ambush positions along the Titan's route. They could not kill it, but they could distract it. Slow it down. Give Dawan and Eunji time to work. Nari checked and rechecked the reactor core, making sure it was stable enough to carry but unstable enough to detonate. Jinho found Dawan in the equipment bay, putting on his gear. "You have family back home?" Jinho asked. "A sister," Dawan said. "She lives in Busan. Works as a teacher. Want me to tell her anything?" Dawan thought about this. "Tell her I did something that mattered." "I will." Eunji was quieter. She sat alone, checking her weapons over and over. Corporal Nari sat down next to her. "First suicide mission?" Nari asked gently. "Yes," Eunji admitted. "I'm scared." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp. Fear keeps you alive. How do you deal with it?" "I remind myself why I'm here. I think about the people I'm protecting, the lives I'm saving. It makes the fear smaller." Nari put a hand on Eunji's shoulder. "You're very brave." "I don't feel brave. The bravest people never do." The Titan appeared on schedule. It moved through the western district like a walking mountain, crushing buildings under its massive feet. Each step shook the ground. Its weapon ports fired constantly, destroying anything that moved. Valoran forces retreated immediately. They had seen Titans before. They knew running was the only option, but the humans did not run. The 7th Battalion opened fire from prepared positions. Plasma cannons, missiles, rifles, everything they had. The Titan's armor absorbed most of it. Some shots penetrated, drawing black blood, but the creature barely slowed. It turned toward the humans, its massive head swiveling. "It sees us," Hyun shouted. "Good. Keep shooting," Jinho ordered. The Titan fired. Organic artillery shells rained down on the human positions. Explosions tore through buildings. Soldiers scrambled for cover. The ground erupted in fire and smoke. But the humans kept firing. They had to keep the creature's attention. Dawan and Yoonji moved through the rubble. They stayed low, invisible in the smoke and chaos. The Titan passed within 50 meters of their position. This close, it was impossibly huge, like a living building that breathed and bled. "Now," Dawan shouted. They fired grappling hooks. The lines caught on the creature's armored back. The hooks bit into organic flesh. Dawan and Unji activated the winches and flew upward. Pulled toward the Titan's body, they slammed against its side hard enough to knock the wind out of their lungs. The creature did not notice. It was too focused on destroying the humans ahead. "Climb," Dawan ordered. They climbed. Hand over hand, using every ridge and scale as a handhold. The Titan's body was hot, almost burning to touch. It smelled like rotting meat and chemicals. Below them, the battle continued. Above them, they could see the intake vents, circular openings the size of cars. Unji reached the first vent. She pulled out a breaching charge and planted it on the organic filter covering the opening. "Clear," she shouted. They climbed to the side. The charge detonated. The filter exploded inward. Air rushed out of the vent, creating a powerful suction. Dawan grabbed Yoonji's hand before she was pulled inside. "Together," he shouted. They jumped into the vent. The tunnel was dark, wet, and pulsing. They crawled through organic tissue that moved around them like a living tunnel. It was like being inside a giant throat. The air was hot and smelled terrible, but they kept moving. Behind them, they dragged the reactor core. It was heavy, barely fitting through the tunnel. Every meter was a struggle. "How far?" Yoonji asked, gasping for air. "Can't be sure." Dawan replied. "We need to reach something vital. Something that looks important." They crawled for what felt like hours, but was probably 20 minutes. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber. It looked like the inside of a heart, with thick walls pulsing rhythmically. Organic cables ran through the space, glowing with bioluminescence. "This is it," Dawan said. "Central nervous system, or something close." They pulled the reactor core into the chamber. Dawan opened its casing and started adjusting settings. His hands moved quickly, precisely. This was what he was good at. Making things explode. "How long?" Unji asked. 2 minutes after I activate it, maybe 3. "Can we get out in that time?" Dawan looked at the tunnel they had crawled through. Long, narrow, difficult. Then he looked at Yoonji and smiled sadly. "No, we can't." Unji nodded slowly. She had known this was the answer. "Then we better make it count." Dawan activated the core. A countdown began on its display. 2 minutes 30 seconds. He stood up and took Yoonji's hand. "It's been an honor serving with you, Private." "The honor was mine, Sergeant." Outside, the Titan continued its assault. It fired at the human positions, crushing buildings, killing soldiers. Jinho watched from the command post, tracking Dawan and Yoonji's signals on his display. The signals were inside the creature. The plan had worked. They were inside. Then both signals stopped moving. "Sir," Hana said quietly, "they're not coming out." Jinho closed his eyes briefly. He knew this might happen. He had sent them anyway. Because that was what war meant. Sometimes you sent good people to die because it was the only way to save others. "Stand by," Jinho ordered. "All units, prepare to retreat. When that thing goes down, the Devourers will be confused. We use that confusion to push them back." The Titan took another step forward. Its weapon ports locked onto a cluster of human soldiers. It prepared to fire, and then it stopped. The creature froze mid-step. Its massive body shuddered. Black smoke began pouring from its vents. Internal fires lit up its body like a lantern. The creature made a sound, a horrible screaming that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The reactor core detonated. The explosion started inside the Titan and expanded outward. The creature's armor bulged, then ruptured. Fire and black blood erupted into the air. The massive legs collapsed. The entire body toppled forward, hitting the ground with an impact that shook buildings kilometers away. The Titan was dead. The Devourer forces stopped. Their hive mind pulsed with shock. Titans did not die. Titans were unstoppable. But this one lay broken and burning in the middle of the city. "All units, advance," Jinho ordered. "Push them back, now." The 7th Battalion charged forward. They hit the Devourers while they were still confused, still reeling. The aliens broke and ran for the first time since the battle began. They retreated from the city, leaving their dead behind. Ambassador Kelris stood on the wall, watching the enemy flee. Tears ran down his face. "They did it," he whispered. "The Terrans killed a Titan. 2 Terrans." Jinho corrected quietly, standing beside him. 2 soldiers. Who gave everything. What were their names? Sergeant Dowan M. and Private Unji Han. "We will remember them," Kelris promised. "We will tell our children. We will build monuments. The galaxy will know their names." That night, the 7th Battalion held a memorial service. Simple and brief. Soldiers did not have time for elaborate funerals during war. But they took time to honor the dead. Jinho spoke about Duan. Minho spoke about Unji. Nari read a poem from Earth. Other soldiers shared memories. And when it was over, they went back to their posts, because the war was not finished. But for the first time, it felt like they might actually win. The death of the Titan changed everything. Word spread through the Devourer hive mind like a virus. For the first time in their existence, they felt something new. Not fear, exactly. But doubt. The unstoppable could be stopped. The unkillable could die. The Devourers pulled back from Thrysia Prime. Not a full retreat, but a regrouping. They were learning, adapting, preparing for a new kind of war. The humans used that time to prepare as well. Reinforcements arrived from Earth. 2 more battalions, fresh soldiers and equipment. The Galactic Coalition also sent ships. Not many, but some. A few species had heard about the humans, about the soldiers who held bridges for 6 hours, about the 2 warriors who killed a Titan. They wanted to see these Terrans for themselves. Jinho stood in the rebuilt command center, now shared between human and coalition forces. The room was crowded with different species. Velerans, tall and blue, Korthans, short and covered in protective shells, even a few Sharid, floating in containment suits filled with liquid. All of them stared at the humans with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "The Devourers are regrouping in the northern continent," Hana explained, pointing at the tactical display. "They're building up forces for a major assault. We estimate 500,000 bioforms, supported by air units and 3 more Titans." A Korthan commander made a clicking sound of distress. "3 Titans? We should evacuate immediately." "No," Commander Hana said firmly. "We hold. We've killed 1 Titan. We can kill more." "With respect, Commander, you barely killed 1 Titan, and it cost 2 lives," a Sharid officer said through her translator. "How will you kill 3? Quote, "The same way," Jinho said. "With courage and good soldiers." "That's not a strategy," the Sharid replied. "It's worked so far." The briefing continued for 2 hours. Plans were made, positions assigned, resources allocated. The coalition forces would handle defensive positions and logistics. The humans would form fast response teams to deal with Titan threats. It was not a perfect plan, but it was the best they had. After the meeting, Kelris found Jinho on the observation deck, looking out over the city. Much of it was still in ruins, but people were rebuilding. Valoran civilians worked alongside human engineers, clearing rubble, repairing buildings. "Your people integrate well," Kelris observed. We're good at rebuilding, Jinho said. We've had a lot of practice. The Galactic Council wants to meet you. Me specifically? You and Commander Hannah. They want to formally lift the quarantine. They want Earth to join the coalition, not as junior members, but as military leaders. Jinho was quiet for a moment. We just wanted to help. You did more than help. You changed how the galaxy sees war. Before you came, we thought war was about technology and numbers. You showed us it's about will, about refusing to surrender, about soldiers who choose to die rather than fail. That's not something to celebrate. No, Kelris agreed. But it's something to respect. The northern assault came 3 days later. The Devourers attacked at dawn, as predicted. 500,000 bioforms surged across the continent, supported by air units that darkened the sky. And leading them, 3 Titans, moving like walking mountains. Coalition forces opened fire. The defensive lines held. Barely. The Devourers crashed against the walls like an ocean. Against cliffs. Soldiers died by the hundreds. In the first hour. We can't hold this. A Korthon commander shouted over the comm. Yes, you can, Jinho replied. Keep firing, don't break formation. But the Titans were the real problem. They moved slowly toward the city, crushing everything in their path. Conventional weapons bounced off their armor. Missiles and plasma cannons barely slowed them down. Same plan as last time? Hana asked. Same plan, Jinho confirmed. But we need 3 teams. He called for volunteers again. This time, 15 soldiers stepped forward. Jinho chose 6. 2 teams of 3. 1 team for each Titan. The 3rd Titan was his. I'm going personally, Jinho announced. Sir, you're the commanding officer, Hana protested. And I'm not asking anyone to do something I won't do myself. Minho and Nari immediately volunteered to go with him. Jinho did not argue. He knew they would follow him regardless. The 3 teams prepared. They gathered reactor cores, grappling equipment, explosives. Corporal Yuna Shin hugged her sister, who was also in the battalion. Before heading to her position, Lieutenant Hyun Lee checked his equipment 3 times, his hands shaking slightly. You scared? Sergeant Taexio asked him. Terrified, Hyun admitted. Good. Me too. The Titans approached. The ground shook with every step. The teams moved into position, hidden in the ruins, waiting for the right moment. Jinho watched the nearest Titan through his scope. Massive, armored, seemingly invincible. Just like the last one, he muttered. It bleeds. It dies. The Titan passed their position. Now, Jinho ordered. His team fired grappling hooks. The lines caught. They flew upward, slamming against the creature's armored hide. All around the battlefield, the other teams did the same. 9 humans climbing 3 monsters, carrying death with them. Jinho found a vent and planted a breaching charge. The explosion opened a path inside. Hot air rushed out, carrying the smell of decay. In we go, Jinho said. They crawled through the organic tunnels. It was worse than Jinho imagined. Dark, hot, claustrophobic. The walls pulsed around them like they were being digested. Nari gagged but kept moving. Minho dragged the reactor core behind them, grunting with effort. How much further? Nari asked. Until we find something important, Jinho replied. They crawled for 15 minutes. The tunnel opened into a chamber filled with glowing organic cables. Jinho recognized it from the reports. Central nervous system. Set it up, Jinho ordered. Minho opened the reactor core and started the activation sequence. 3 minutes. Can we get out? Minho looked at the tunnel, then at Jinho. Maybe. If we run fast and get lucky. Then let's run. They turned and crawled as fast as they could. The tunnel seemed longer on the way out. The walls pulsed faster, like the creature knew something was wrong. Behind them, the reactor core ticked down. 2 minutes. 1 minute. 30 seconds. They burst out of the vent just as the core detonated. The explosion ripped through the Titan from the inside. Jinho, Minho, and Nari jumped free. Falling through the air, they hit the ground hard, rolling through rubble and debris. The Titan collapsed. Its massive body crashed into a row of buildings, dead before it hit the ground. "One down," Jinho shouted into the comm. "Two down," Hyun-Lee reported. His team had succeeded. 3 is fighting back. Yuna Shin's voice came through. Strained. "It knows we're here. It's trying to shake us off. Hold on," Jinho ordered. "Finish the mission." But Yuna's signal went dark. Then the other team members' signals. For a terrible moment, Jinho thought they had failed. Then the third Titan shuddered. Smoke poured from its vents. It staggered, collapsed, and exploded. "All targets down," Hana reported from command. "All 3 Titans are dead." The Devourer forces broke completely. Their hive mind, already shocked by the loss of 1 Titan, could not handle losing 3 in one battle. They retreated in chaos, scattering across the continent. Coalition forces pursued them, cutting down the fleeing bioforms by the thousands. The battle was over. Thrysia Prime was saved, but the cost was heavy. Of the 9 soldiers who went into the Titans, only 5 came back. Yuna Shin and her entire team died when the third Titan fought back. 12 other soldiers died in the defensive lines, 40 wounded. That night, the 7th Battalion held another memorial. More names added to the list. More families back on Earth who would receive letters saying their loved ones died with honor. Jinho stood before the assembled soldiers, exhausted and covered in blood and ash. "We won today," he said quietly. "But victory always costs something. We lost friends, brothers and sisters, good soldiers who deserved to live long lives." The soldiers were silent, heads bowed. "We remember them," Jinho continued. "We honor them, and we continue their fight. Because that's what they would want. That's what we do. We survive. We endure. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We rise from the smoke," Minho said quietly. Other soldiers repeated it. "We rise from the smoke." It became their motto. The phrase that defined them. The ghosts who rose from smoke. 3 months later, the war was over. Not just on Thrysia Prime, but across the coalition. The Devourers, their confidence shattered, retreated to their home systems. Coalition forces, reinforced and retrained by human military advisors, pushed them back. The species that had seemed unstoppable was stopped. Jinho and Hana stood before the Galactic Council on the Coalition capital world. Hundreds of species watched as the human officers entered the Grand Chamber. Some looked grateful. Some looked afraid. All of them looked respectful. The council speaker, an ancient Valoran with white skin and wise eyes, addressed them formally. "Captain Jinho Park. Commander Hana Choi, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, we offer our deepest gratitude. You and your soldiers saved not just one world, but countless worlds. You proved that courage and sacrifice can overcome any threat. We did what anyone would do," Jinho said. "We helped." "Not anyone," the speaker replied. "Most species would have ignored our plea, would have remembered the quarantine and left us to die. But humanity came. Humanity fought. Humanity bled for people they had never met." The speaker gestured, and a hologram appeared, showing Earth. 200 years ago, we quarantined your world. We called you dangerous, violent, unfit for galactic society. Today, we formally lift that quarantine. We invite Earth to join the coalition not as probationary members, but as full partners, as military leaders, as friends. "We accept," Hana said. "But we have conditions." The chamber went silent. Making conditions was unusual. "Bold, we will join your coalition," Hana continued. "We will help defend your worlds, but we will not become conquerors. We will not use our military to take territory or enforce political will. We fight to protect, nothing more." "Agreed," the speaker said immediately. "Then Earth agrees. We'll join." The chamber erupted in a sound that might have been applause, Jinho and Hana bowed formally and left. Outside, Ambassador Kelris waited for them. "You did it! You brought humanity home." "We brought them to a new home," Jinho corrected. "Earth will always be our real home. Perhaps, but now you have a bigger family." The 7th Battalion returned to Earth as heroes. But they did not feel like heroes. They felt like soldiers who did their job. They attended memorial services for the fallen. They visited families. They tried to adjust to peace. Nari adopted a Velaran orphan, a child whose family died in the war. She named her Sora, after the human sniper, who had been killed in the final battle. The child would grow up on Earth, learning 2 cultures, belonging to both. Minho built a memorial in his hometown. A wall with the names of every soldier who died on Thrysia Prime. Humans and aliens together. People came from all over to see it. To remember. Jinho was offered command of the Coalition Joint Defense Force, a new military organization combining soldiers from every species. He accepted. His first act was to establish a military academy on Earth, where young officers from across the galaxy could learn human military tactics. And they came. Thousands of them. Young aliens who wanted to learn how to fight like humans, how to hold the line, how to refuse to surrender. Commander Hannah became the Academy's first director. She taught strategy, history, and something she called the philosophy of survival. Her students learned about Earth's wars, its failures, its tragedies. They learned that violence was not something to celebrate, but something to understand. "War is terrible," she told her first class. "It breaks people and destroys worlds. Never forget that. Never romanticize it. But also understand that sometimes war is necessary. Sometimes the only way to protect peace is to fight for it. Your job is to be ready for that moment. And to never, ever lose sight of why you fight." The students listened. They learned. And they spread across the galaxy, carrying human teachings with them. Years passed. Earth became the military heart of the Coalition. Not through conquest, but through respect. Other species sent their soldiers to train with humans. They learned. They adapted. They survived. And when new threats emerged, as they always did, the call went out. The Terrans would answer. They would rise from the smoke, ready to fight, ready to bleed, ready to die if necessary. Because that was what humans did. They survived the worst. They learned from it. And they used that knowledge to protect others. The galaxy had feared them once, feared their violence, their ruthlessness, their capacity for destruction. Now the galaxy was grateful for those same qualities. Because sometimes, the only thing that can stop a monster is something even the monsters fear. And the monsters feared humans. Not because humans were cruel, but because humans never, ever quit.